it is November 1st and I have a huge bag of candy and my kids are asking, can I have a treat out of my bag? Can I have one? Do we let them have one? Do we let them have two? Like, do we let them get used to having a treat, a sugar, like a candy bar every day?
Yeah, I think we do. And the reason for that is that we don't want to set up a bad relationship with food. I think we want our kids, and we can do a better job as moms and as adults in general to do this as well, that really when we're structuring our relationship with food, we have to make it okay to have something that's not always healthy.
This is Mom Squad Pod, your weekly update on tips, tricks, and all things parenting with Maureen Kyle.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on the Mom Squad Pod, and we are coming to you right before the holiday season, Halloween. I know your kids have been asking about it. You've probably been thinking about it. You probably already have a big bag of candy already in your cupboard, which leads to the question, where do I draw the line on the sugar? So I'm bringing in Cleveland Clinic dietitian Kristin Kirkpatrick, who's always one of our favorites from the mom perspective. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks. It's such an honor, Maureen. Yeah, love the mom perspective because there's so many of us and we have very similar challenges, whether it's the holidays or not.
Right. And it's so funny, even among friends, now that we're the parent and we're in charge of the candy, I can't tell you how many friends have said they already bought that first bag and then it's gone before Halloween. So right. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I feel like I wanted to bring you in because with kids, you get this huge bag of candy. We try to regulate all year what they're eating, how much sugar intake they're getting. And then we get this deluge on one night. They want to eat all the candy and then we have it lingering in the house. What is your approach as a dietitian to the whole Halloween holiday? What do you think we should be thinking of?
Well, you're absolutely right. Halloween does kick off the holiday season. And it doesn't end at January 1st. It actually ends at Super Bowl, if you look at kind of how we structure it. But I think you really hit the nail on the head talking about how we already bought that huge bag of candy and like we just got into October a few days ago, right? So number one, I often say from a parent perspective and also from a mom perspective to not buy candy you like. Now, I understand that sounds pretty obvious, but if you have candy that your kids like, that you like, it's going to go. So you have to make it that this is an event. This is a fun event. You guys are going to go out trick or treating and you're going to get candy that you like and don't like, and then you can choose how you utilize it. But we're not going to have that candy in the house because we want to make this a fun event. So we all have things that we're not really crazy about. So really kind of choose those. And it's hard to do that when you're getting the variety packs. So I would say like variety packs are like, there's something for everyone. And that's a kind of a really bad approach because it's in the house. So just get things you don't like and get just that item. Because remember, every one of your neighbors is going to have the variety pack. You'll be different because you're passing out, a nut-based candy bar that no one else is passing out.
Especially with kids, we talk a lot about the effects of sugar on kids, their behavior. I apologize here. And what do you think? What happens when kids get that rush of sugar?
Yeah. So I think if we're talking about Halloween, which is really one night, it's really not something that you should be completely concerned about. Now, obviously, we're talking about children that aren't diabetics or, any kind of comorbidities, things like that. Where it can really kind of rear its ugly head is the after effect. So if you have a child and you're really working hard in the household to limit sugar consumption, and then you just kind of rush all that sugar back on that child's taste buds, well, guess what? They're going to wake up on November 1st and be like, wow, I want more candy. Like I got it back and it was great and it tasted great and I want more of it. So I think it's not the moment that I get concerned about. Yeah, their blood sugar is probably going to be high and there's things we can do like adding in protein and some healthy fats to help offset that. But it's the after effect. It's the after effect of bringing those cravings back in and bringing that food back in. And as you had said so eloquently, kicking off the holidays with a huge jumbo bag of candy, right? Sending the wrong message. We want our kids to enjoy Halloween and enjoy if that's like something that we celebrate in the house, we want kids to enjoy it and to not feel guilty about it. But we have to think about how we structure the conversation related to that loot of huge candy that they've got in their pillowcase. I was always bringing a pillowcase when I was a kid in Lyndhurst. So
the pillowcase was always the best because it felt like it was endless. It was, a big deep pocket.
Exactly.
So then it is November 1st and I have a huge bag of candy and my kids are asking, can I have a treat out of my bag? Can I have one? Do we let them have one? Do we let them have two? Like, do we let them get used to having a treat, a sugar, a candy bar every day?
Yeah, I think we do. And the reason for that is that we don't want to set up a bad relationship with food. I think we want our kids, and we can do a better job as moms and as adults in general to do this as well, that really when we're structuring our relationship with food, we have to make it okay to have something that's not always healthy. I tell my patients 90% of the time, I want you eating nutrient dense, really following intuitive eating, but that 10%, have the cookie, have the hot dog, have something you enjoy. Food is still to be enjoyed. So we don't want to start the relationship off on the wrong foot by telling our kids, no, you can have none of it. But I do think rationing is a really important factor. And there is a big difference between a full-size candy bar and a little fun size. So I think number one, after Halloween, we get rid of the full-size options. They're just too large, and we have the fun size. And that's something that we can utilize. We're going to put one in lunch every day, or, we're going to do something. The risk in that, of course, is that we are rewarding with sugar. Right? If you get a good grade on this test, you can take 2 things out of your Halloween bag. So we use this bag over our children as a reward mechanism. And so again, we have to be careful about the semantics of this. It's not a reward. It's something that you really enjoy. And guess what? I enjoy a peanut butter cup sometimes. And it's okay to fit that in as long as the other things we're eating are nutrient dense.
So then do you get clients that just say, I have been snowballing since Halloween through Thanksgiving, then the holidays. Is this a problem area in the calendar for clients that you see?
Absolutely. I mean, it's combined with this mind frame that on January 1st, I'm going to be a new person, which is a faulty mind frame. And so we kind of blow it out to prepare for that, right? Well, on January 1st, I'll be better. So, I'm just going to have fun now. And it's also combined with the fact that we are more indoors. So we know that as we have less daylight, there's more likely to see an increase in seasonal affective disorder. Depression and anxiety can increase the propensity of wanting to eat more and eat food when we're not necessarily hungry. There's this whole notion of comfort food and things like that. And then of course, the social gatherings. So the holidays can be really challenging for a lot of my patients. I really try and flip the conversation though, and challenge them to start their New Year's resolution on November 1st, right? Start now, start focusing now. And then when you get to January 1st, you are already a month or 2 in, and you're more likely to have a sustainable approach, right? I don't see success in a dietary pattern in an individual unless they can sustain it over a year. So we have to look at that and say, what can I do now to kind of get to that? And again, for my relationship with food, I might still have pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. I might still have some Halloween candy, but knowing that we can have small amounts in moderation and enjoying them, not beating ourselves up about them or going for a 5-mile run after a candy bar just to get rid of the calories, that then forms a better relationship with food. It makes us more likely to eat in a more intuitive manner.
What about, we know that these holidays are coming up. We know that by now we know if we're going to a Halloween party, we know an aunt or an uncle are going to have Thanksgiving and we know what they make. Most families have the same traditional dishes. What kind of planning should we be putting in place in terms of do we plan to bring a dish that we know we can eat?
Right.
We save calories ahead of time for a big meal. What do you think is the best approach?
Yeah. So I think that bringing something is always a great way to ensure that there's going to be something nutrient dense. One thing that I love bringing to Thanksgiving dinner is green beans. And I just kind of saute and brown some pine nuts and a little Parmesan cheese. And I put that on top, and it's just such a huge hit. And it's a lot it's indulgent, but not indulgent to the point of like a hash brown casserole, right? So I think there's that perspective. So offering to bring a healthy snack or a healthy meal is a great option. On the day of, you really don't want to kind of save up your calories. My brothers did this. They would wake up, we wouldn't have dinner until 5, and they would eat nothing. And then they would completely pig out and they'd have zero control. So I think on the day of, and maybe even prepping a few days prior, is really getting into, okay, I'm going to have some lean protein. I'm going to have some complex carbohydrates. I'm going to have a little bit of oatmeal with some peanut butter the morning of Thanksgiving. You don't want to go into any meal where there's so much food in a hungry manner. Right? You are just destined to fail. And it's not that you yourself are a failure. It is that the environment in which you put your body into this place is the failure, right? Hunger is powerful, and we will always succumb to it if we have the right environment. And there's no better environment than walking into a full table.
Right. Is there, when somebody starts to feel like, okay, I've been out of control, like it's been 1 or 2 weeks, do you see people start to beat themselves up and almost like throw their hands up and go, well, all right, I'll just figure it out, in February.
Right.
Or, do people go through a roller coaster of, I'm going to be really good, and it only lasts a couple of days? What do you think is the biggest pitfall?
Yeah, I think that anytime you assess what your dietary pattern, right? And note the fact that I'm using the term dietary pattern. I'm not using the word diet. We have had a lot of recent studies and surveys looking at consumer behavior that are showing that people are really sick and tired of the diet industry and the notion of dieting. People are more interested in health. So I think that whenever you figure out what's the best eating pattern for me, you have to figure out if it fits within your likes, your goals, and the environment in which you live. If your plan is, okay, during the holidays, I'm going to go vegan, but you love meats and your spouse eats meats, that's not a good plan, right? So you have to be realistic of what you can achieve. I do think doing it in groups, especially in a mom perspective, is a great idea. I know in my neighborhood, we get a walking group together and we are going to meet every single day at a certain time, whether you can show up or not. There will be people doing that. So just getting that support that can kind of talk you through it. I definitely see the perspective of, okay, gosh, I did awful at Thanksgiving. I might as well enjoy Christmas, right? But we have to realize that the body doesn't understand your calendar, and you can make improvements to your mental health and your body simply by waking up the next morning and making better choices. So we can always stop the bleeding of poor decisions. We don't have to let it go on as an excuse that we're going to have an obscure date where we're going to start making good decisions.
Right. And even roping the kids back into this conversation, I also notice with our family, and I'm sure with a lot of families out there, we say, okay, we're gonna eat really healthy, but then the kids start to say, well, I don't like that, and I don't like this, and then you're kind of like, okay, fine, chicken nuggets, I don't know, throw some broccoli on there and cross my fingers that that I'm doing a good enough job. What's your advice to families who want to do this all together? We want to get everybody in, but we know that everybody has different tastes when it comes to what favorite vegetables are, if they eat vegetables or proteins or whatever.
Yeah, that's really hard. Believe me, I experience that in my own household daily. But one of the things that we know research supports, and also I've seen this in my own clients as well as in my own kids, is the more involved you make them in the process of choosing and preparing food, the more likely they're going to be interested in trying it. So when we're at the grocery store, I do say to my kids, hey guys, I want you each to choose 2 different colors, and they got to be natural, and we're going to try it. And you don't have to have the whole thing, right? I just want you to have a little bite. So the other day, my 5-year-old was choosing blueberries, and he usually loves strawberries. And he said, I like these blueberries. And blue was a color that his brother had not had in the cart. So involving them in that process. And then when you get home, talking about all the ways you can kind of like utilize that. I think the key is not to punish. Right? I think the worst thing we can do is put a salad or put those blueberries in front of that child and say, you're not leaving the table until you eat that. Again, it sets us up for a really bad relationship with food, but rather show your child, mom's eating blueberries, dad's eating broccoli. Hey, this is how we eat, right? And I know it gets into the discussion and the challenge, and I'm guilty of it too, that we end up making different meals sometimes. And that can be really tough because we want our kids to eat. But, at the same time, it's like we really should be communicating, hey, we're making one meal and I'm going to have a few things that you really like, but we're not making separate meals anymore, and kind of get through the process of what that looks like.
You've mentioned it a couple of times, just making sure that there's that healthy relationship with food. And we know so much more now than we did 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, especially when we were growing up. What do you think is one of the unhealthiest mindsets that you've seen, that maybe like if we were growing up 20, 30 years ago, that where that relationship is fractured? What do you think is like the number one culprit of having a bad relationship with food?
I think soothing with food is there, and I think we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it for sure. I remember falling off a bike when I was a child, and my mom never ran up to me and was like, we're going to go in and have some broccoli. It's going to be fine, right? It was always like, we're going to go get ice cream. We're going to go make chocolate chip cookies. So there was a connection very early on that if something bad happens to me, I can be soothed pretty quickly with something that is not necessarily healthy for me. And of course, I'm guilty of it as well. I am not suggesting that we should go and throw a salad at our child that just got off the bike, but maybe look at approaches outside of food, right? You know what? We're going to sit down and we're going to choose a new book, and we're going to get a book all about biking that's for kids, and like somehow change the conversation, because that does come in very quickly. Because bad things happen, right? And we automatically say, well, okay, I'm going to help you by giving you this candy, by giving you these potato chips. So we learn very early on that when something goes wrong, I can really solve it by some of these foods that aren't necessarily good for me, right? So we know there's a whole realm of nutritional psychology that looks at the fact that when we choose these foods, we ultimately feel worse. So we have to figure out how can we boost confidence with food choices and mental health in general, and still make childhood fun for our kids, right? Like have ice cream, but make sure it's real, right? Just cream and milk and sugar, 3 ingredients.
So that brings me back to, let's go back to Halloween then, before I let you go. When you're looking in that bag of candy, are there healthier, is there such thing as a healthier candy? I don't want to be the raisin lady. I love raisins, but like when I'm looking through my kids' candy bag from Halloween or whatever party they went to, is there a healthier choice over others when you're looking at that candy bag?
I mean, there could be in terms of looking at protein and fibers. So things that have nuts, if you have a child that doesn't have a nut allergy, that can help with boosting protein a little bit. It can help to boost healthy fats. I would call that healthier than others because the sugar content is still really high. But I think what we have today that, Maureen, you and I did not have as kids, if we have so many great brands out there that are very low in sugar. So just really great dark chocolate in and of itself has a lot of benefits. It's got flavonoids. There's tons of great things about it. So really just maybe even seeking out some of those more natural forms of candy that still taste good, right? If it tastes bad, your kid's not it doesn't matter how natural it is. They don't care, right? But we care. So really looking at those perspectives and the more natural version. My kids are obsessed with peanut butter cups. So we make that in our house. So I can choose what kind of peanut butter I'm using. I can choose the content of sugar I'm using. I can choose how dark the chocolate's going to be. So just kind of getting them in that process and making their palate more evolved hopefully means when they get the more cruddy piece of peanut butter cup, they're going to say, this isn't as good as mom's, and they won't be as interested.
Right. So overall, I mean, we should relax a little bit, but not go overboard.
Relax a little bit. Don't go overboard. Remember, this is a fun holiday. It's ultimately one night, but it's the conversation and the utilization of the candy that we have afterwards that really makes the difference.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kristin Kirkpatrick, thank you so much. It was always great to talk to you. I'm sure I'm going to talk to you before the end of the holidays or probably right after to get back on track. Yes. So hang for a second. For all the rest of you, thanks so much for tuning into the Mom Squad pod, and we'll see you right back here next week.
Thanks for listening to Mom Squad Pod with Maureen Kyle from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now so you never miss an update. And find more on everything you heard here on WKYC.com and on the WKYC app.